Dude, what is going on, man?
Not much. How you been doing?
Pretty good, pretty good. Had a nice pizza last night, so can't
Nice,
complain
dude.
about that. Um, let's see. What do we got, dude? We
Dude,
got we
dude,
got
all right, stop. I got a question for you.
don't do it.
No. I got a question for you now. Our buddy Jay
Shout out.
likes to call out our shit. We like to shout out for Jay. We love you, Jay. The asshole of our existence. But Mark, had some words that you had for Jay. You want to go and share that with the crowd?
No, I'm glad Jay brought up this conversation, and I just before we get into it, well, first of all, the conversation we need to talk about is can we really average all the points per game that we think? And I appreciate it, but just for the record, Jay, if you want us to talk about some things, don't be a dick, and then it'll be easier.
Dude,
Next time, if you're a dick, Jay, then we're just gonna ignore even the nice things you say. Okay?
all right.
So,
I want to say this. Jay's been there for a while. Jay has a very dominant way with his words. So
all right.
we appreciate the way that Jay
So
flows. So
let's do this. I went through this in my head.
yeah.
Actually, I think I might have wrote it on my phone. I didn't need to, but let's go points per game because there's a couple of caveats we need to make about this. But like load management and things like that could open up opportunities for like us to have a higher average of points per game, like individuals,
Okay.
than like as a team. You would come back and break it down as far as the starters.
Okay.
If the load management takes an interesting turn for the really young players, like Chet, right? He might play. We've talked about it. 55 games,
Okay.
average, a little bit higher in elements, but then it doesn't necessarily impact the team's overall average as much as it would if he played 82.
All right.
So
First things first, bro. How many points did we score last year? We scored 117.1 or zero point 0.3 points per game last year. Okay. And
all
then we
right,
look at that and we say, what can we improve? I think that was like the fourth in the league or fifth in the league as far as points per game. What can we improve on?
see
Can
now
we
you're gonna
make
get called
this
out.
3, 4, 5 more points a game?
So here, let's talk about averages, right? Shay's 30, right? I mean, it could be
Listen,
28,
I
but
got a
it's
question
30.
though. Let's just put them in groups. Can we just put them in groups?
No, stick with me.
All right, go
The,
for it.
the starters, right? Shay's at 30. We're thinking J Dub can put up 20. Am I wrong?
No, I think you can do something like that. Yep.
Okay. Josh can put up 15. And Dort, like it or not, Dave, I'm giving him 12. Now, on top of that, we got to include Chet. And I'm putting Chet right at 15.
Okay.
Now, that's 92 points
Starters.
for the starters.
All right.
Now,
What I had,
average 40.
sure.
So that's 132.
I think 132 is impossible.
Okay. So that's where you look at a player like Chet. Can he average 15?
Okay,
Can
so
Josh average 15?
like you look at Josh, Chet, and Dort. I think between those guys, I think you're right. 40 points between those guys is right on the money. I think that is something that you can look at and circle and say that's legitimately something between the four of them. One player has more points, one player has less points. Josh has, 20 points, and Dort and Chet, have 10. I could see something like that, just rotate who scores there. J Dub and Shea, right? To me, those two are premier scores.
You
Those
think
are
they
the
can get 50 between the two of them?
I think 50 to 55 depends on what the bench does. I think it's all about what that bench does. If we need these starters to put out more points, then yeah, J Dub and Shea are who we're going to lean on. So between 50 and 55, I think those guys have it. Our bench, then, I think we have to look at it like this: is that when you break up the bench, is you're like, oh, this guy could average this player. This most of our bench players, right? There's probably 3 to 5 bench players. That's
What's
it.
up, Corey?
3 to 5 bench players, Mark, that are going to average significant minutes. When I say significant minutes, they're going to be in the top tier. Okay. So you look at that and you're saying, okay, what do these guys be able to put out? Can they put up 25 points a game? Yes. And then you look at the other guys that are going to get playing time that are going to be sprinkled in there. You know what I'm saying? Because not every one of these guys are going to be able to play 60 games of our bench. There's only going to be 3 to 4 guys that are going to play 60, 65 games off our bench. The rest of them are just the sprinkled guys that are going to be thrown in there at 50 games. You look at Jay Will. You look at JRE, you look at some of these guys that get 50 games, and they've had a good 50 games. I think Jay will get 50, but if he gets more, it's because he went to training camp in much more better shape than he's been in a while. So things that as you're looking at and breaking this team up, you start recognizing, hey, you know, asking this team to score 120 points, right? Isn't that out of the question? I think 120 points is a great because it's only 3 points more a game or 3.5 points more a game. That's not a significant jump up. And then you
Okay,
start
so
looking at it and you start seeing how these guys can play, and you're like, man, this team could really do something dangerous.
so what I broke down was 132, and you're saying 120 is a good goal. So let's
Yeah,
shave off
it's
12
huge.
points. Let's start out with the bench. Let's say the bench averages 36 instead of 40, right? So now we need to shave off 8 points from the starters. Let's give Chet.
Dude, our bench will be the best bench in the league if we average between 25 and 35 points.
All right, so let's say with Chet, we'll give him 13 points a game, which I think would be really healthy, no matter the conditions.
I
I
think
think.
that's a good way to
All right,
non-expecting
so
way for him to be out there.
Josh, I don't want to give Josh less than 15, but I'll take one from him and put him at 14. Okay. Shay's still got to give him 30. Dort, I don't want to take anything from him at
But,
12. And J Dub, I can give him 18. And
but
right about there, you're getting close to 120 total, I think.
yeah, I want to say J Dub scores 20 points a game unless he figures out a way to get to the foul line a whole lot more effectively. And if he does that, he doesn't take away shots from the team, and he's getting to the foul line. And if he does that, then he could go, I mean, he could go off and score like 23, 24 points a game. And then we're putting
What's
our
up, Jared?
that's where I also see that, Shea could do the same thing. Shea figures out something and all of a sudden Shea's averaging 33, 34 points a game. So that's why I think it's safe to put
So you
J
said
Dub
that
and Shea at 50, 55 points a game.
what who led the team? Who led the NBA in scoring last year? And how many
Uh,
points did they score? You want me to look it up?
I should know this. Hold on, man.
All right, you look it up. Um, Mitchich, you're right, Jared. Absolutely. Our Euro Harden. Yeah, and like I said it before, but the way he hunts end of game, end of shot clock shots,
Yeah,
he's a clutch player and he knows it. And I think he's gonna have Chesapeake standing on their feet as much as anybody else on the bench. I think that's gonna really surprise people. And in this weird way, I
hmm.
don't want to say it. I don't want to say it, but because I always feel stupid when I comp players, but he reminds me of an Argentinian player that played for the Spurs.
Hmm.
Like potential could be like that, but I don't want to go there because if I say it, I always kick myself in the nuts. What's up, buddy? Um, anyway, so my thing is, why couldn't we average 132? You want to know what?
Hmm.
I think we could. That would be far and away the best offense in the NBA, I believe. I
Okay.
think I think last year, I'm just guessing, but I'm
Okay.
guessing it was like 125 was the average. So my
For what?
theory is
125 was what? I'm sorry.
probably the leading in the NBA in scoring.
Um, no, it was 120 was the Sacramento Kings.
120 was the Sacramento Kings. So the idea that we could jump like a full 12 points on someone like them and they were playing
Well,
really
not
good.
12 points. No, we had 117.4.3 whatever per game.
My
So it's
theory
not.
is why couldn't we average 130?
Uh, uh, I mean, if we want to win 60 plus games, yeah.
So
To me, like
like we might be a year away from this happening, but when you look at players, like when you go down the list and you're like, we could legitimately get 92 points from our starters
sure,
on a regular basis and 40 from our bench. I mean, seriously, it might not be this year, right here, right now, that this is about to happen,
yeah,
but I see the structure of a team that can average over time 130 points. Like you can't tell me that over time J Dub is going to be held down from 20 and Shea won't be able to maintain that 28 to 30 points per game,
sure,
and that Giddy won't be able to stay, get up above 15 and hold it there. And Chet over time won't be able to reach 18 to 20 points per game with all this balance, and our bench will still be able to produce 40. I know that it seems so far out, and that's what really inspired this whole conversation and why Jay brought it up. It's like you guys you're not really doing math when you say this player can average this and this player can average this and this player can average this. You're just kind of like shooting the shit, which is true. We don't necessarily sit around and say like how can we break up these 125 points or 120 points per game if we look at it more like what can this guy do
sure.
And I look at J-Dub and I say, there's no doubt to me that he's a 20-point player per game in our system.
Sure.
Is it this year? I don't really give a fuck. If he goes 18 this year and then 21 next year, like to me, it's a trajectory that matters. But I see that potential.
All right. So let's just say, devil's advocate here. So we have Dort and J-Dub. One of those two guys I feel like are going to definitely have a huge jump up this year. I don't expect Dort to necessarily make that jump, but think about this. If Dort all of a sudden started shooting much higher percentage from with his layups, and it doesn't cost any extra shots that we've already been, accounting for, and he starts hitting those shots and he hits 3 or 4 more layups a game, like I could see Dort all of a sudden averaging 18 to 21 points a game, and that would actually take away from what Jada would be expected. Then Jada would have to be going in there being okay with 17 to 19 points a game. Because if Dort is stepping up like that and hitting his layups and stuff like that, it relieves a lot of pressure. And having two guys that could go off, for 20 points at any given time with Dort and J-Dub would be pretty phenomenal. I mean, it could be that could be Chet too. I mean, who knows? Like, who knows how good some of these guys are going to be in year 2 or in the first year of their playing.
Yeah, I mean, if Dort can get to the rim with less help defense, a lot of times he's facing a help defender, um, because we have more spacing, because Chet's out there, because of different things like that, and also I saw an improvement as the season went on with his decision making when he would get to the basket. He wouldn't necessarily feel like he had to try to finish over people.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of like for the NBA. There's different quality of 3-point shots, right? It's
Yeah.
really for any level of basketball. Like the inside out shot is a much better shot than a dribble up three.
Hmm.
Okay. Now some players have elite step back threes,
Sure.
and that kind of breaks the rule, right? But the rule when we were growing up was inside out, right? We always want to get offensive rebounds and kick the ball out
To reset.
for the open shot because there's usually an open
Or
guy on offensive rebound, right? And these types of things are ingrained in you. And for me, what I'm looking for with Dort is this ability for him to begin the process of understanding the difference between the dribble up three, the corner three, and the elbow three. The elbow three is low efficiency for him.
Sure.
The corner three is high efficiency. Getting past your man does not mean you have to shoot.
Mm-mm.
If you can turn into a passer when you're in the lane, because now you have the inside out ability, that's preferable than a missed shot. And understanding the difference between a contested shot for like Dort and other players is really a challenge because Dort plays so physical all game. They recognize like that he's creating contact when he's going to the basket on offense.
Yeah.
So they're not going to give him the whistle. He can get fouled by most people's definition, but he has like a bigger, stronger body than people, and
Sure.
so it doesn't look like a foul.
Well,
So he needs to use that, like, get the defender up in the air and do the wraparound pass, do things
That's
like
it.
that. If he
That's
could
it.
do 2 or 3 assists instead of shots, then all of a sudden teams will be daring him to shoot, and he can finish over a dare. What he can't finish over is a 7-footer. He lacks the athleticism, and the ability to stay in the air long enough. Like Russ could like take contact and then just hang. Like
Yeah.
Dort, if there's a defender between him and the basket, he might finish, but it's not necessarily a high percentage shot. But he can get past people and play in space. I know
Sure.
we saw him do it a lot more last year. So if that's the Dort we get, then I think he could average, 15. He could average, I think, 2 really high quality made threes on the perimeter per game.
Sure.
Just if he says like, this is a high efficiency shot.
Sure.
Now, there's always this question, like how much does a coaching staff focus on good shots versus bad shots? In fact, you hear some of the reporters ask coaches about that and stuff. They're like, do you guys talk to them about bad shots, especially with the Thunder media? So what I look at for like a guy like Dort is like efficiency has to become something that he cares about.
Sure.
It can't be something that the coaches are sitting there being like, oh, you got to want to, shoot 35 plus percentage from deep. you got to want to shoot, 60% plus from the inside the arc. Those types of things, they come with maturity. And I do believe that the structure's there for him. I think with Chet is a leader. Chet is a leader by being a follower, right? He puts his arms around everybody and he says, "We're going to do this together." But that's going to suck up a lot of shots that Dort's been kind of taking up. Last year, J Dub sucked up a lot of them. His average, wasn't the same. He was missing out on a lot of the offense that was available to him. It's going to happen again. Can he handle it without necessarily having a dip in offensive production? That comes down to efficiency. That's up to him to figure out.
Efficiency is king, especially with J Dub. So I look at all these other players right now, and I say, out of all the players that we have, if we're going to average 122 points a game, it comes down to Dort. Can Dort figure out how to either he has 3 to 4 shots a game that he misses that I would consider not easy shots because of the contact, but if he figures out a way to convert that, or figures out a way that he did this last year at the end of the season where he did that wraparound pass or he did the bounce pass as he got past his defender. So if Dort gets an extra 2 to 3 assists a game, or let's just say 2 assists a game and he gets an extra bucket a game because he's more efficient out there, then yeah, we have an incredible opportunity to average 122 plus points a game. But it comes down to my opinion in Dort at this point because he takes a lot of shots, and there's sometimes the shots are like, what, But this is not me picking on Dort. This is me just making an observation about some of Dort's shots, and I look at across the NBA. There's a lot of players that you look at their shot selection and you're like, if that player figured out a way to take 2 to 4 of those shots a game out, and they became more efficient, how good of a player could that player be? And I think it starts with Dort right there. If we want to see a phenomenal increase in points this next season, I got to see Dort be more efficient because we know that Shea can do that. We know J Dub can do that. We know Chet can do that. We know Josh Giddey can do that. So for me, the one person that needs to step up the efficiency aspect is definitely Dort.
Now, there's this I don't want to call it slander, but there's this consensus opinion going around about Josh
What's up,
that
Keelan?
what's up, Unc? About that maybe that we're in a spot where he's going to take a step back offensively. And I want to say this definitively. That is not something that anybody in the Thunder organization is encouraging him to do. Okay. His offensive game opens up his passing game. If he turns into a fucking Rondo out there, guys, it's not good. It's not good for anybody on the team. It's bad for Shea.
Sure.
It's bad for Chet. It's bad for J-Dub. All of their development gets hampered if Giddey gets afraid to shoot.
Yeah.
God forbid we end up with a player like Ben Simmons who gets so afraid to shoot that people end up strategizing against it. So for me, a big part of the whole team's development is Josh not taking a step back offensively.
Sure.
I want to see him continue to turn into a killer. I think so often, right? You see this happen in like the NCAA tournament, right? Players come out and they just boom. Like we didn't necessarily know who they were, and they might have had a good solid season, but all of a sudden when it's winning time, they demonstrate a different level of a winning ability. And once they do that, scouts really take them seriously. And then the question is, can they play 82 games at the level that they were playing for the tournament? And some players can. Some players come out and have a great tournament and then end up having great NBA careers.
That's right.
So what I want to see next is this team just figure out how do we give everybody the opportunities they need. And most people look at opportunities and they think it comes down to shots. Shots are opportunities. But the reality is when I look at this, I think minutes are opportunities. And that goes back to what we were saying at the beginning. Like we have to have strategic times where players are sitting, right? Like we call them load management, rest. If we can balance all of those things, then the 75 games that Giddey plays, I'd like to see him average shooting 4 threes a game. Sure. I really would. I would love to see him get to the hole and continue to play the way that we saw him play against Minnesota. And the way that I think more importantly against the Pelicans, we saw him put up 30 plus. My
Yeah,
point about Giddy in that Pelicans game is like some players, it takes elite competition to bring out their best. And once their
sure.
best is out, then they go back and they go, how can I make that my average?
Hmm. And you bring up really good points, and something that we said yesterday that we got a lot of flack from, um, was that Shea is the best guard in the league. A lot of people are like, no, 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 and I want to say like
I know
the most.
we got some weirdos out there listening
I
to
just
us,
want to say
bro.
this though. When I say like I make statements like this, it's not like I'm not going and looking at the stats and looking at the projections and looking at the next 5, 6, 7, 10 years projection, all that other stuff, right? I went back before I made the statement, and the biggest information I got was 49 points were given to the guards besides Shea in MVP votings. 49 points. You know how many points that Shea got?
I hope you tell me
46.
how many.
46. So Shea got 40. Okay, if you combine them, right, and you're adding that, it was like what? 97, whatever, right? Out of the 97 points, if I did my math right,
Sam,
right?
what's up, man?
Like, think about that, man. Like, Shea almost got 50% of those votes, of guard votes. That's what's insane to me. Is that anybody that says that no, Shea's not a MVP and he's not the best guard in the league. Well, he's good enough where the experts have all voted on him, saying that he is the best guard in the league.
On a
If you look
team
at
that
you look at
nobody watches.
yeah, and then you look at on top of that, you look at the NBA All NBA team voting. He led the All NBA team voting from the professionals yet again for guards. So for me, yeah, say what you guys want, that he's not the best guard in the league, and I understand because he's not your player, or he is your player, and you think I'm just being a homer. But the reality is that who would you trade for? Would you trade Shea for Luka? I wouldn't. Hell no,
Not
I
even
wouldn't.
close, man.
Not even close. Would you trade Shea for Devin Booker? Hell no. Would you trade Shea for throw a guard out there? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If you play a 1 or a 2, I wouldn't trade Shea for any of them out there, because to me, Shea fits exactly what we're trying to do. And that's it. Shea, in my opinion, is the best guard in the league because he's in the best system for what he is doing. And he is going to be an MVP. And I do think that this year's going to get a shit ton of votes. And he's going to be,
You
yet
gotta
again, the highest voting guard that people vote for.
you gotta get one when you can, because I think Kobe got one, right? Like just because some players out there got 6 or some players got 2 that maybe weren't as good as other people, it doesn't mean everybody gets 2. Russ
Yeah.
got 1, Katie got 1. Like to me, here is it's really important that Shea wins it. Like I felt like we started talking about it last year. I was like, we need to be the advocates for Shea's MVP candidacy last year.
Yes.
Last year was so important because you don't go from 0 votes to winning it in the NBA. You
We got
gotta
a mic. We're going to, of course, go for Shea. We're going to tell everybody Shea love.
we're like, look, we made the case for Shea early. We made it often. And now we're looking at it and we're saying it's very important that he wins it this year, because this year's the year that nobody has expectations. If they can come out and say like, look, God forbid I say something and then it doesn't happen, but 58 wins and everybody's like, this team won, boom, boom, boom. We got to give it to the best player on this team. And Shea wins it. He may not ever win another one, even if he's the best player in the league.
It's crazy,
5 years
man.
in a row.
It's crazy.
It's how many does LeBron have? I think he's got like
4 or 5. 4.
4. Like,
Yeah, but he's came in second so many times. Not even funny.
think about it. 20 years of playing, like where he's at the top, and they only thought fit to give it to him 4 times. Like these guys they know what they're doing, but there's so much like they talk about
There's
voter
so many
fatigue. They talk about all these
crazy
different
seasons,
elements.
though, man.
Yeah.
If you think about it, like KD should have had another MVP, but what was it? Steph went off and had one of those insane 3-point seasons, or was it Russ that went off? I forget. Anyways, the point is that there's been times that we've seen in our lifetime that it's like, wow, that guy should have won a second or third or even a 5th MVP, but you have a player that goes out and it's like, holy shit, that what he did was spectacular, triple double, like.
Yeah, it reminds me of like LeBron. No, I mean Michael's years, like Chuck won one, Karl Malone won one, and yeah, like you could give it to Mike every year, but at some point,
Man,
like
there
Sam's
is
saying, there's a
so
lot of
much.
agenda in it.
You're right. You're right. There's so much agenda in each of the voting, unless there's one case that's unless, and that's unless there's a underdog in the voting. There's an underdog in the voting, and say what you want. Embiid was the underdog this year, right? Derrick Rose was the underdog. Like there's an underdog that pops up once in a while, and because nobody's been watching Oklahoma City and taking them, seriously for the last 3 years, right? Because of that, like when all of a sudden Shea starts doing crazy things, and we're like, yeah, we told you, right? And he's dropping 50 and back to back to back nights and stuff like that, and everybody's like, holy shit! Like we're all like, yeah, we told you guys, because like, I mean, like that's happening this year. Shea's going to be doing things that we're only going to be talking about for generations to come because that's what he's been building up to. And if you take anything from Shea, he's not content with being the same old player that he was the year before. He comes out with fire. He comes out with passion. I mean, I think about the dedication that he shows every single offseason, his food routine, the way he's always at the gym when he needs to be at the gym. Like everything Shea does lines up to being what we considered that Kobe mentality. You got it, you don't, man.
I was thinking about it, bro. Like thinking about the previous life cycle of the Thunder teams, the early 2010s and
Hmm.
stuff. Like what will our podcast become as all of a sudden everybody else jumps on the bandwagon, and we saw
Sure.
like I would say from 2010 through 2016, the peak of like Thunder bandwagon fandom,
Sure.
right? And like all of a sudden everybody's expectations are high. Shea wins an MVP, we get to the conference finals. Now everybody's thinking we're going to the finals, and then they get carried away. And we've been sitting here kind of being like think about the expectations and how
Sure.
good we could be if things go well. But at that point, I think we're going to shift. I think we're going to be like, guys, calm down. Like you don't need to win every year. You need to be one of those teams that get yourself a chance, get into the conference finals every year, give yourself a chance, be the final four year after year, and you have a chance, right? And
That's it, man.
I think that's going to be kind of like a progression. Like I think a lot of people will think, oh well, Mark and Dave got everybody all fired up about the possibilities. Now they want to take it to another level. But what we're going to do instead is we're going to be like, yo, everybody, let's
Expectations.
hold the
Chill.
expectations. And maybe it seems like we're creating unreasonable expectations when we talk about, all these players and all this stuff. But the reality is we're not trying to create expectations. But what we're trying to say is like,
Dude,
look at the possibilities. This might happen. And if it happens, right, what does that mean? And what if that means we're about to win a championship and nobody knows it?
check this out, man. What did we win? 26, 27
What's up,
games
Milani?
when we got the second pick? 26, 27. I forget what it was. But anyways, we got 13 plus wins more last season, the season before, right? That's where I come up with this whole 13 idea. This team, I believe, can get 13 plus more wins. Like just as simple as that. Like if we look at the progression, because if we go in a middle of the line season and we have everybody healthy and nobody else, we win 42, 43 games. That's a fucking failure for this team. Why? Because there needs to be improvements that are significant every single year. And if the improvements are happening and we're averaging 120 plus points a game, right? And doing what we're saying this team is going to do, and Shea's putting up insane numbers like he's going to do, and our bench is being one of the best benches in the last 15 years, like we think they can do, then all of a sudden we're looking at 53 and we're saying that that's completely doable. Why is it important for us to keep on saying that to everybody here? Is because everybody else is saying 43, 47, 48, and that's great. And if we get to 48 or 49 wins, that's a win, right? But the reality is that the improvement that this team has done this offseason is way more than just a 4 to 6 game improvement for this next season. Like even Chet himself, you insert Chet into any team in the league right there, and that's a 3 to 4 game better team immediately. And then you add in all the other guys that are getting better, and J Dub what he's going to do, and Shea what he's going to do, and Dort and Josh Giddey. I mean, then all of a sudden you look at
Mhm.
Jay Will, then all of a sudden you're like Isaiah Joe and Mischief, and boom.
Amen. Preach it.
They're like, what else
Preach
do you
it.
guys want? Like, this is it,
Preach
man.
it, brother.
This is the year that we've all been waiting for. And now for me, like, I just want everybody to know that. As much as people will throw rocks at us and throw stones at us for saying, like, you guys are crazy for saying Homer stuff. But get this. We said this last year that the Thunder were going to win 40 games. People thought we were homering. We thought that Shea was going to be in the top 3 MVP votings for last year. People thought we were crazy. Right? Top 5, so I guess we were a little bit crazy. But we go, we start talking about stuff like this, and all of a sudden, like, people have been telling us we're crazy for so long, it doesn't matter to us anymore because we've been able to watch this team get better and better and better. And it's the expectations that we're coming with are the same expectations that they're probably having inside of the organization. And it's not like it's that crazy for us to be like, this team could win 13 more games than they won last year. And Shea, if we win 13 more games, that means that Shea should automatically be a top MVP candidate. And if that's the case, and we're averaging 120 points a game, then where's the other points coming from? Well, that makes it sense. J-Dub, our bench, then it starts coming into context of exactly how good this team could be.
Dude, we are crazy. And that's why when people come at us and they're like, you're homers, da 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 da, we're like,
Fuck yeah,
that
we're
doesn't affect
homers.
us.
We like one fucking NBA team. Fuck the rest, man. Fuck the rest of the NBA. One team.
Like, yeah. And we're so used to being the only people who like have thought that this team was about to arrive that like when people come tell us that oh we're wrong, like J-Dub's not as good as we think or Shea's not really as good as we think, we just kind of like take it like just mental note, be like, okay, the rest of the world still wasn't ready for it on August 3rd, 2023.
Yeah.
They're sneaking up on everybody. So get the fuck ready.
Boom.
Because this is the year we've been waiting for, bro. Hit that end button. Let's end this